manager that has been working on the Freedmen Bureau project. I've been working actually with our partner in AUGS, our Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, to organize outreach and communication, to help you all, as you will be kind of our indexing administrators, is what we're calling you, to help you all have a successful event, be able to recruit volunteers, and really help us accomplish what we want to accomplish with this project. Obviously, you are very well aware of the project. You've probably seen a briefing that we provided that the intent of the Freedmen Bureau project is basically, since we, from Family Search, were able to get the records from the National Archives and Records Administration. We've now have them digitized, but they need to be indexable. They need to be searchable for folks who are looking for family history information during this time period to actually find their ancestors. And we want the community to help us with that. And so we've put together this presentation for you all to be indexing administrators, to organize your projects, to know what it is to kind of get people up and running with these types of projects. My presenter today, I'll be kind of the host and I'm kicking things off, but our presenter today is Janelle Vasquez, and she is with our indexing workforce team. She's done several trainings like this before. She is the pro. She knows all the ins and outs of our indexing platform and how you can work as an administrator. So she'll talk more and kind of run the bulk of our presentation. I'd plan today's conversation to go, I'd say 40 to 45 minutes. We'll leave some time at the end for questions and answers. Right now, all of you that are on the webinar are on mute. Just we don't want any background noise or anything distracting us during the presentation. And we also want to, we're recording this actually so that we can provide this training in the future as well. So you'll be on mute. If you do have questions though, there is, as part of the WebEx platform, a way for you to chat with me or chat with everyone actually if you want to. I see there's several people who are call-in users, and that's fine. You can call in to listen, but you'll need to obviously be viewing the screen and be on the computer in order to watch and see kind of the screenshots that we've got. And if you've got questions during the middle of the presentation, feel free to go ahead and shoot me a little chat. I'll try and be responsive. I'm obviously trying to listen to Janelle's remarks at the same time as see any chats that come through. So I'm responsive and hopefully be able to answer your questions in line. Or like I said, we can wait till the end and answer all questions together during the maybe final 10 or 15 minutes or so. So with that, kick things off actually with a video. We've been working with several individuals, obviously Pamela Lewis from President of AUGS and Sherry Camp and Gene Stevenson have been great to work with from AUGS, but we've also gone out to other individuals, specifically in California, where we'll be actually hosting this live event on June 19th to talk about what their feelings are about the project and why they feel it's important to the African American community, to Americans overall who are seeking out their ancestors. And so we're going to go ahead and play this little video clip for you to kind of set the tone for things that we're going to talk about today. So go ahead, Janelle, if you'll play that for us.
How people in other parts of the world are history better than we know it. More history speaks of certain things, but have some data that points to it would be phenomenal. It would mean a deeper sense of my identity.
This Freedmen's Bureau story that needs to be told. When you know where you're coming from, then you can find where you are going.
will fill in those gaps.
Video. I love what Diane Watson, who is a former U.S. ambassador, had to say at the end there when she talked about, you know, needs to know this, and we're with this project is not just about these records, but I mean it's part of our larger initiative. If many of you may be familiar already with Family Search and the vast amount of records, we have 5.8 billion names in throughout the records that we contain, and this is part of kind of a larger project here, the Freedmen Bureau project. I mean, it's the larger scope of what we do for indexing. Indexing allows individuals to find these records and find this information. And so I just want to impress upon you that this is, we're not taking this lightly. This will truly change lives. It'll help people make these discoveries and understand who they are. As our tagline says, as you discover your roots, you can unlock your future. And we want to provide that opportunity for individuals through this effort, through the volunteers that you'll work with on this. But it's going to be with some challenges. We already know that. These are not the normal record sets that we've dealt with, like the 1940 Census Project. There's some unique things about these records that people need to understand as they get involved and start to volunteer. And so I'm going to pass the baton, if you will, over to Janelle to let her talk and really take you through kind of how to register, how to select your group, kind of looking at the records themselves, what some things you can do to generate some interest and motivate some individuals as a group, specifically how to get in and do your group administration. So how do you add individuals and things like that? And then any support and help that you need, and if we need to, we can kind of go over some of our frequently asked questions, things that we get asked a lot. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and the over and the bulk of the time over to Janelle, if you will.
Great, Tom. So with that as a wonderful introduction, let's go ahead and talk about how to get started. I'm going to go through all the way up to getting started indexing first batch. So we've already been through these steps. To the point, some of you have not, but you'll probably all be walking your members through these steps. So we'll go ahead and go through each of them. This will kind of help you see an overview of it as well. One other note before we begin is that the program does not run on tablets or on smartphones. You need a laptop or a desktop computer. Windows or Macintosh, either one will work okay. So to get started, go to familysearch.org. Indexing on Get Started. Here to this page, Get Started with Indexing. Here on this page, there's a few steps here for you. You click on Download to download the program onto your computer, and you can follow here, and I'll walk through those as well. When you download it onto your computer, it'll give you an icon on top that you can use to launch the program at any time. And when you launch it, it'll give you a spot to where you can enter in your Family Search account information. If you don't have an account yet, or if you've got members that don't have an account yet, there is a spot right here where they can actually click to register for a new account. This will take them out to the website. They register for the new account, and then come right back into the program when they're done registering for that account. Time you sign in as a new indexer, it's going to have you select some information for your profile, and this is where they are going to select the group that's going to be a part of indexing. So you might let them know what your group name is so they know what to look for in this list. All of the OGS groups are right there at the top of the list, so it's really nice. They go through those and find the group that they want to be a member of there. So before they see the list of groups, they do have to click on that option, another group, to be able to see that list.
Just a point of note that on those groups, those group names came to me from OGS, the executive board. So if for some reason reason you look in there, the name is not correct, we're happy to correct that on the back end for you. We'd like for you to get in here, you know, in the next few days to kind of look and see these things for yourself before you obviously start recruiting individuals to join the group. So if there's anything amiss, we can take care of that prior to either your event on June 19th or events happening shortly after that.
Yep. Important thing I will note about that is we do need to go ahead and change it before people start joining the group, if at all possible. So yeah, let us know on that. And I'll show you here in a second where you go in and look at the list as well. Some of you may have already gotten through this step. So there's a specific spot where you can check that out too. All right, after you do that, when you get into the program, it'll take you to the indexing home screen. Click on Download Batch button there, and it will bring you up a whole list of all the projects we have available for indexing. Anything that's based in the United States is down under the U's, so scroll all the way down the list and roll through all of the states, and it'll take you to everything that's U.S. general. So the Freedmen's Bureau projects will be down towards the bottom of the list there, and then just select one, double-click on it, and take you into a batch. This is what it looks like when you're actually in an indexing batch for these projects. This top section includes the image that you're going to index that we're going to pull information from. This section is where we're going to actually enter the information from the image. Then over on the right, we've got some project instructions and field helps that help you know what to index for both the project as well as for each specific field. So first get started, you're going to look at each of the images and just make a mark whether or not we index that image. If it's a normal image for this type of project, which you'll find out more about in the project instructions, but if it's a normal image for this type of project, you'll just enter normal image type field here. Or if you're not sure, there's some additional information, as I mentioned over here in the that project instructions tab. And so identified all of the images and whether or not we index them, then you'll start back on image 1 again and index the information from each image. The names and the field helps will give guidance so you need to help you know exactly what to index in each of those fields. And you can just enter or tab, and that will automatically take you to the next field each time you index. So a quick way to go from spot, tab, or enter. Either one does the same thing. All right, so essentially, a very basic guideline of how to index, how to get started. I do want to go back for a second to what I mentioned about selecting groups. There's a couple of reasons why you might want to actually look up the list of groups. Indexers will get this box, as I mentioned, when they sign in, but if they're not a new indexer, if they've been indexing with us before and they're in a different group, or if, as Tom mentioned, you need to look up the list of groups, the different place where you can actually go in and do that. And this is the website, indexing.familysearch.org, that you see on here at the bottom of the screen. A distinction here because, as I mentioned earlier, we get started at familysearch.org/indexing, okay? But this indexing.familysearch.org is actually a different website. It's our old website that we're transitioning into a new website, but there's still a couple of things on that old website that we haven't yet been able to move over to a new indexing website, and we're working through those things. But just so that you're aware, this indexing.familysearch.org website is actually a little bit different than familysearch.org/indexing. So I apologize about the confusion there, but just know that there's only two things that you really need from this indexing.familysearch.org website. That is the administration portal, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the call, My Info page. And the My Info page is where you can go in and take a look at your personal settings. This is where you can go in and see at any time, you can go in and see the whole list of the groups here. So look at this, let us know if you have any concerns with the name of the group. For those of you that I have usernames for those of you that have already logged in to the system. You've already been added to your group and made the administrator of your group. So there are some of you that I don't, that I have usernames for, but I have not logged into the indexing system yet. So it's actually the indexing system. So as you're able to do that, we will be able to get you added here to your group and made an administrator of that group as well. So under indexing.familysearch.org is where you go in and look at your specific settings.
Janelle, I did put that in the chat window for folks to see as well. And just you know, a couple of folks have been chatting with me, and we can address other questions later. But if you do have anything, or if you want to share anything with me, go ahead and use the chat feature to do so. I'm going to ask a question now in the chat, not to distract them from your presentation at all, but just to make sure we know some folks, you know, are being able to or have been able to log in and access and see their groups and things like that. I'd love to get some feedback from you. So I'm going to post that in the chat here in just a moment.
Great, great. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the records themselves so you can kind of see what types of records you'll be seeing as we do indexing. So there are labor contracts. There's a lot of labor contracts that we'll be indexing. There's many different types, many different forms. This one is completely handwritten out. It's a couple of pages long. Your type of labor contract that's printed. I bet the administrators were grateful when they didn't have to write all of that out. But it's the same kind of information. We've got employees, employers, the places, the dates. So it's got all the same kind of information, just different types of forms. There are personal letters in here that you'll see. There are complaints, you know, with a plaintiff and a defendant, and sometimes it'll tell us a little bit about those complaints. Sometimes these are not written out this way. A lot of times they're written out in paragraphs that means more about the complaint, so different formats of complaint as well. And there's also some land records in there when freedmen have been granted land. So lots of different types of records, lots of different things to index on those records. So we really wanted to kind of boil it down and give you some very general guidelines that would give you more foundation for indexing any of the projects. So the projects apply these guidelines just slightly differently, and the instructions will give you a little bit more detail. But if you remember these three guidelines, these will help a lot. Because there are so many different types of records, it's important to look through all of the images in your batch to get a feel for the information on each image and how the images relate to each other. Because a lot of times there are multiple images that all relate to the same person. So it's good to look through all of the images to get a feel for that. In these projects, we're going to index all of the named individuals in order except for the employees, the officers, and administrators. So I'll give you a couple of hints in it that will tell you can identify who they are. When there are no names in a document, or names are the bureau officers and administrators, or if the records do not match the record type for that project, we don't index anything from those images. There's really nothing to capture if we don't have names there. So I'll get into a little bit more detail in each of these areas here and kind of explain how to apply that. So first, because there are so many different types of record, look through all of the images in the batch to get a feel for what's there. The best step to do that in is when you're selecting the image type. As we mentioned, that's the first thing you're going to do. And here on the right, you click through and look through each of the images. If you want to go back and forth between them, just click on a number, and that will take you back. That will take you to that specific image. The names, you know, sometimes multiple documents are about the same person. So you'll learn a lot about what's in your batch if you take a quick survey first to determine kind of what the images contain.
I mean, and sometimes it's good just to take the time to go through it, just to read it and see what's all in there and see what information you'll do. I mean, you'll learn a lot if you kind of just take some time to look at it. And then that's one thing we'll stress is don't feel like you have to do this in a hurry or that this has to be a fast process. One of the questions we got is, that this doesn't look like a beginner's indexing project, and that's correct. It's not. These are handwritten records without already delimited fields and things like that, and so it may take a while. And so we encourage people to just take your time with it. We're not about numbers per se. We want just information to get captured, and the more time you can take with it and read through it and understand what it's saying and see all the different images and kind of understand what's going on, the easier that'll make the process, I think, once you start typing in that information. Wouldn't you know?
Oh, definitely. And in addition to that, as you read through it, some of this handwriting is really tough to read. But as you start reading through the documents, it gets easier once you've maybe a time or two and looked at different images with that same handwriting on it. So, reading through it definitely helps a lot. So, number 2, we want to index all of the individuals named in the documents, except the Bureau administrators. Document. This is a complaint. It has multiple plaintiffs here and one defendant. Well, we'll need to add enough records to index each individual. So down here in the bottom area, you can see where it says image-record, and then it's got some numbers. There are 5 images in our batch, and the one after it shows that that's the first record in each image. Okay, so we're at a record for each name in the image, and this is where we do that with these 3 icons on the toolbar. The icons in green will add a record. One adds it after the record they're on, and one adds it at the end of the records on that image. And then icon deletes the record that you're on if you accidentally add too many. So those 2 icons are what you want to know about to add records. Sometimes when you're indexing record on that image, it'll up a question and say, do you add more records to this image? And you can add them there. But before you get to that, then you can add them here on the toolbar. All right, I mentioned about the administrators. As I said, I would add a little bit later. You can often tell they're an administrator because their names may be repeated on multiple documents as signatures. They're often the signatures on letters or on labor contracts, that kind of thing. So you have multiple throughout your batch. Or also be a job title or a rank or initials written next to their names. A lot of times that will identify them as an administrator as well. So here's an example image with administrator's name and nothing else. Age 0 has some initials here under that and a date. We don't index anything from the image because all we've got here is the name of an administrator. So for the image type, we're actually going to call that a no extractable data image because there's information to extract from the image. Okay. Another example of something that we wouldn't index here but will be indexed later. So this is this document right here for rations. But it was downloaded, if you can see up here, in a labor contract. So the fields that we collect in these different projects are slightly different in each one. And if we get the wrong type of image for that project, we're not capturing the right information. So this is also a type that I'm going to mark as no extractable data image. And we have some people on the back end who are going to check through all of these images and make sure that all of the information is gathered. So anything that's marked as extractable that will be checked later, and then these types that do have information on them to index be reassigned to the correct project later. All right, so images, you'll see just some basic guidelines. As I mentioned, project instructions include more information, and it's all going to be detailed out there for you. a bit about deciding the handwriting. Now, you are all experienced judges. I'm sure you probably are better at reading the handwriting than I am. But
I would not say that I am experienced anymore.
What, Tom?
I'm a novice when it comes to all this. So I'll be working on this prior to June 19th and doing what I can do to contribute. But I'm gonna have to come. You're gonna have to help me.
Okay, we'll get together, Tom. All right. So, but I'm sure there are probably a lot of people there too who may need some of these tips and guidance that you can give to decipher the handwriting is going to be helpful. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. But this is an example of something you can help people, that you can point out this type of thing to them. On this image, this place name, the letter looks like it could be a couple of different letters, but by looking at where in the document, I just zoomed in. I don't know how I did that. Let's see. Hold on a sec. That was odd. Okay, there we go. But where in the document we can see that it's more clearly an F because it's with the name Frank here. I also see the word Fayette down here, so that makes it a little bit more clear that that's an F for Fayette. So looking at the same letter, multiple places in the document where you know where that letter is will help a lot. This name is pretty difficult to read. The first couple letters of it could be a few things. Could be stay or stray. There's some weird markings in here. By looking over here on the right, you see his name is repeated, and it's much easier to read it the second time over here. So it's important to study the handwriting, as we mentioned earlier, on all of the images of the batch, because a lot of times the handwriting is the same in all of the images in the batch. So multiple places will let you decipher certain letters that are hard to decipher. You're going to want all versions of a name because they're often repeated multiple times on these images. So one where the first name is here, that it says Wash as the first name, may be abbreviated, but even though it's an abbreviated, even if it might be abbreviated Wash for Washington, we still just type in Wash there. The last name is a little bit more tough. That first letter could be or a P. Second letter could be without any vowel, I think. And the third letter kind of looks like an M to me. But again, seeing the name in a little bit of a different place makes that last name out as Powell. And then knowing that, I look back at the first version of the name, and I can really see how that looks Powell. There's another example first looked at, and I just had no idea what that could be. Finding information in another spot makes it clear that here there are two names because of this and. It may be a little bit easier to read the names. It looks like Daniel Ned here, and this kind of looks a little bit like Walton. And I'm at least able to start reading it, letter here. Then when I pull up the third version of a name, this is actually, and again, I wish we could have 3 versions of names in every document. But this one, it looks a little bit more like Walter, which is a little bit more common of a name. And it makes me wonder, is that really an R-I? That maybe be a U? Letter. So look at all versions of a name is really going to help you decipher for those names. And it's nice that they're repeated in a lot of these documents. So another line that we, another thing in the program that we have that helps people to sometimes decipher the letters, we have this handwriting help you can show if you click on the inkwell. It doesn't have a ton of examples of each letters, but it's got a few. And can sometimes be helpful, especially for any youth, if you're working with youth that don't know cursive very well. this can be helpful for them as well. So that's inside the indexing tool. What we want you to be aware of is that if there are certain letters you can't, you just absolutely can't make out, there's a blotch, or you just have no idea what that letter could be, you can actually use wildcards as your indexing. Use question mark as a wildcard for one letter that you can't read. Use an asterisk if it's multiple letters there you can't read, or if you're not sure how many letters. So a question mark for one letter, an asterisk for multiple consecutive letters that you can't read. Our tool that you have is something called the share batch. For help from using this share batch feature. So if you get a record that you're having a hard time reading, you can share your batch with them and let them come into the program on their own computer and see the batch that you've downloaded onto your computer. They won't be able to make any changes to it, but they'll be able to see all of the images and help you with any questions that you might have. So,
and actually, I think this is actually kind of vice versa. This would be where you all, maybe having more experience and done these things before, can share with those who are newer. Hey, if they get stuck with a batch, they can share the batch with you, and you can look through some things and then kind of give them some feedback, and then they can continue with that batch, and you can help them in that way.
Exactly. Into there, click on the file menu at the top of the screen, and then click on Share Batch, and that will give you this bat number that you can copy and paste to give them so that they can pull it up on their computer. They're going to, or where you're going to go, say if somebody shares a batch with you, you're going to go into the indexing program, the main screen of the indexing program, and click on File as well, and then click on View Shared Batch. That little window right here where you can go in and type in number that they've given you. And once you do that, that will, that batch. You can look at it with them and help them through it. It's great for helping people decipher handwriting.
There's just so I understand, actually, in the My Batches section, it won't show up as one of my batches, right? You do have to go into File, receive a batch, and then type in the number the person sent you. That's the way that, so the person has to communicate directly with you with that batch number, and then you have to go in and retrieve it. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Now, the one thing I will say is that after you do open it up, it will show in that list. After you open it up for the first time, it'll show in your list. You go out of the program and come back in again. Once you leave the program, it'll go away and it'll not be listed. So the caution to you, make sure that you remember when you're sharing a batch with when somebody has shared a batch with you and it's in your list, not to go in and index the whole thing, because you won't be able to save or submit it or anything. And then
what about the sharer? Will they be able to continue to work on that batch once it's been shared? Okay, so even while it's being shared, it's still their batch, and they can continue to work on it. So this is just basically a view of what they're seeing, but they can continue to work on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That answers one of the questions that came through. So.
Great. Yep. Right. So the last thing, and this is kind of a last resort if those things don't work to help you decipher the handwriting in there. If there's one that's just but you think that somebody else maybe could get it as well, you can go ahead and actually return the batch for someone else to run. So again, that File menu, you'll click on Return Batch, and then here you'll click the Give Indexers, and that will let somebody else come in and look at it. There have been a number of times where I've gone through and I've indexed a batch, and I've done my best, but really sure if I did a great job with it, and I think, hey, maybe there's somebody else out there who could look at this and could potentially do a good job on it as well, or kind of give it a second pair of eyes. Gone in and indexed what I could. I've said I've saved it to other indexers to let somebody else kind of go once over on it as well, the whole batch. So it's sort of a protection for me saying I did my best, but I'd really like somebody else to look at it too. So, all right.
I think that last one in being able to return a batch, I mean, can be comforting to those who maybe it's their first time indexing and they just don't feel confident that they've been able to do a good job. For, like you said, you know, you can go ahead and return that batch. Now, I wouldn't encourage that every time. You know, let's just say you're having an event and you end at the hour and they don't get through that batch the hour. That doesn't mean to return the batch. You know, they can go back home and work on it themselves or do it at a different time. But also, you know, we don't want who are participating with this to feel like they have to get it right, they have to do everything, and if they don't, you know, there'll be problems. We just want to make sure that they know that there's a way they can give it to others to help as well.
Exactly. I should mention you have a full week to the batch. So from the time you download one, work on that you can work for a whole week. The home screen of your indexing program will show you when the due date is for those, and they turn red when it's a couple of days out from the due date. So you have plenty of time.
That's so funny. I've not seen that. So all of you probably know this already who are on the call, but I've not seen the due date. That's good to know because I have had batches returned because I didn't finish them in time.
Yeah. So you got a week. A little bit about indexing as a group. Suggestions and thoughts, and I'm sure you can come up with a bunch of really great ones as well in addition to these, but there are a lot of things that you can do to help make this project full and even bring you closer together as a group, especially those who might not be able to maybe attend any in-person meetings you might hold. You know, working these together and doing this kind of volunteer work together really helps bring people closer together as a group. So kind of make the most of this opportunity. You want to set up a way to either communicate with your group members or let them actually communicate with each other while they're indexing. So, for example, you could use an online group like Facebook or Google Plus groups. There's also a way that you can communicate with your group members from inside the indexing program, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. But letting your group members communicate with each other will really help make this a valuable experience that will help bring you all closer together. So let's talk about a few of the details here. One of the things that you can do is share some tips indexing the different types of projects, maybe specific examples, things that you've learned along the way. If you had to research to answer about just about anything, you know, that would be really valuable to share. So here's an example of something that I share with group. I came across this image, and a lot of times we don't index signatures because the signatures are of the administrators, the Bureau administrators, but it turns out on this one, this is a labor contract, and the signatures over on the right side are actually the signatures of the and employees. These are the people who are actually involved in the labor contracts. So they'll definitely get indexed. Over here on the left, I had another question about as well because this tested and these are witnesses to this contract, and so it kind of makes you wonder, are those administrators? It's a little bit into the images before and after this one, and the signatures are different on all the images. So, and in addition, there were a couple of other clues that told me that these actually were not be administrators, and so because of that, then I will say, hey, okay, I do index these images. This is labor contracts. In another project, there is a specific guideline where we say we do index witnesses. So maybe something where you've gone into the project instructions and done some research and found, hey, this is something that we index. So things that you go in and you research and you look around and you find an answer to of what to do can be really helpful to share with people indexing that same project.
You know, to your point, I mean, you know, it's as you. We want to help as many people as possible have a good experience with this, and because these aren't, you know, your typical very simple, you easy kind of beginner projects, I think it would be helpful for you to communicate what you're finding, what you're learning, things you know from the project instructions, and, you know, just the experiences you have yourself. And you can do things, you know, in social media. If you have a Facebook group, for example, you know, through an email every week, you know, as you're maybe working on these, as you come out with something every week. If you're, you know, publishing, for example, a newsletter, if your chapter, you know, has a newsletter, or the area that you're working with has a regular newsletter that goes out, you may put some Freedman Bureau project indexing tips and tricks this week, and then share those things with individuals. We have obviously some helps and some ways to do that, but it means a lot more when it's coming from you all who are, you know, organizing these projects and have direct contact with the individuals that would be involved in these projects.
With them, right alongside them. Yeah. And then you can share those handwriting tips. This is the Writing Helps page on our indexing website. It's under the Help Resources. You can find it in the Resources section of the website. So this is just one example of something that you can send, but there are a lot of other things that you could share about how to read the handwriting as well. As just a second ago, there are tips you can share about even just how to use the indexing program. When you get into the indexing program, this day comes up in the beginning, and a lot of people just quit out of it. They don't. It's sort of, you get in, they just want to index. So this is kind of annoying. It pops up, and they often read it. Doesn't apply to what they're trying to do right then. But these tips can be very helpful and can fit in something like a newsletter, where they're actually reading through something to learn on their way to try and do something else. So you can actually get to a whole list of these tips, again, on the indexing website. This is the familysearch.org/indexing website. On the Help Resources page, if you put in a search at the very top for tips, that'll bring you up an article that has a list of all of the tips in there. So you can kind of look through those, see what you think are most helpful, and you could share those as well, just one at a time, one a week, or every few days, you know, your social media or wherever else. So that's what you can share. A really good thing to share is the progress that we're making. It really, really helps motivate us when we see our common progress towards the goal that we all have together. This specific graphic is found on the discoverfriedman.org website. It's about halfway down the page. So this will show you progress as a group towards completing indexing all of these projects. So that would be good to share on a regular basis to help motivate everyone. I'll talk about your group statistics here in a few minutes as well. It'd be good to share some of the interesting stories that you come across from inside the records. This one specifically is a touching letter. It's Anita. It's from a man who lost track of his sisters, and it's been 24 years since he was in touch with them. He actually mentions each sister, their previous owners. One of them married and had a few kids when he lost track of them, and so he's trying to get in touch with them. You know, just kind of a neat story there. As you know, it was great to share on social media. We've got the hashtag #DiscoverFriedman if you'd like to use that as you share. Then we can get the word about that as well.
Hashtag, this is the marketer and me coming out. So I love this, and I actually, someone sent me, you know, as part of the project, I've been looking in unindexed records. We have all the images available on Family Search right now, but they're not searchable, and so I'm trying to find my specific family by actually just looking in each of the individual, you know, images, which is a daunting task. But I've also had some help from individuals as well that are also looking for a specific family name that's in there. And they sent me a story last night that I'm going to, you know, screen capture and post it on social media once I get to the whole thing, and learn. It may or may not be my family, I don't know, but the story is interesting nonetheless, and I want to encourage others to get involved in this project. And so I'm going to, you know, use it on my own social media to encourage people to get involved.
Great. Very neat. All right. Another thing you can do to help it make it social with your group is encourage them to share batches with each other. We talked about it already a little bit, but this is actually really powerful. When you ask for help or when somebody else asks for help and somebody else responds to them, that really does create an immediate bond between those people. That's created as they work together and help each other. So encouraging that sharing batches between members of your group can be a really powerful way to bring them closer together. There are things I'm sure that you can do. We could probably talk for hours about what you could do to make this a fun experience for your group. As you work as a society to try to engage your members, it really is all about the experience that they have. You know, if you can get together physically and have indexing together and eat food together, you know, that's always fun. There are lots of things that you can do to help make this a great experience that can bring you all closer together. All right. Finally, let's talk about the administration. As a group administrator, there are just a couple of tools that you're given to help manage the group. So let's talk through those. Mention that you can get there through the indexing.familysearch.org website. You can get to the administration portal through the new website as well. I'll show you where to do that here. It's on the resources page again. Scroll into the group administrator section and on reporting. This will take you directly to that administration portal. So you actually can get to the admin portal through either site. You get there, you sign in, you're going to see these 4 tabs. You'll actually see a little bit, you'll be on the View tab where you sign in that lets you see all of your group members. But here I'm on the messages page. So you can, inside the indexing program, you can send a message to all your volunteers by on that messages tab and then create new message. And that's this little spot where you can compose a message to your group members. It'll be back on that indexing home screen in that bottom right or bottom hand area. So anytime I put out a message to all of them, you can put that in that here. If you've got social media channels, you know, you can use those instead. You don't have to use this. This is a way to get it to everyone in your group who is indexing. You know, not everyone likes to be on Facebook. So this is an option for that as well. You can run reports that will show how much your group as a whole is indexing, how much each of your group members are indexing. You get information to send out, you know, specific thank yous and show gratitude to your groupers, that kind of thing. It really helps for people to feel appreciated as they go through and do this volunteer service. These here are the options that you use to go through and run different types of reports, whether it's for the group as a whole or to the individual in the group. There's a directory that you can run to get their contact information if you don't have it already, although you probably have it. And finally, there's a way that you can contact Family Search. You can contact us if you have questions from here. I'm sure, you know, we've got this kind of fast. There's a lot of information. So if you have questions on the Family Search site, anywhere Family Search site, if you click help in the upper right-hand corner, you'll get this help screen and contact us either by calling, by chatting, or by sending a message and contact our indexing support department, and they can help you with any questions that you have. So that, Tom, we'll turn it back to you and see if we have any other questions you guys have.
One of the questions I've gotten a few times is just about this whole presentation. So thank you, Janelle. I think it's been very helpful. You know, I think it's gone through a lot of things that as you know, organizers will be involved with and things like that. This will be, I'm recording today's session. We're having another session tomorrow, June 5th, Friday, at 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. And so if you joined in late or, you know, want to kind of see this presentation again, you're welcome to join us live tomorrow. but we're also recording both sessions, and we'll make at least one of those 2 recorded sessions available to view after the fact. We'll either be sending a note through our OGS national group to make sure that they forward on the link to look at it, to forward the link for others to be able to view the presentation, or also with those who joined us from public affairs, we'll make sure that the way that you were informed about this meeting, you'll also get an opportunity to view those, and we'll provide those later. We've also been working with a member of OGS who's kind of put some things out in social media. We haven't launched those officially yet. As we get a little bit closer to the event, you'll probably be hearing more about not just the website, discoverfreedmen.org, but also, trying to maintain a Facebook page and a Twitter presence and a blog about all this project. And so some of these things may be available there as well. Just to know how you can get access to this. If for whatever reason you don't see it, contact the individual who invited you to this, and they'll probably get in contact with me to make sure they get you that information. So good that we're able to record it. We've got a couple other questions I think that have come in. We just in terms of handling some logistics and in terms of the multiple batches, Janelle, it's like there's questions about can we add localities to the different data fields, and if a date field is blank, can you put in a date knowing that it came from a preceding page, or things like that. Handle those specific instances, Janelle.
Those are really great questions.
And if you want to point to a specific source where we answer those, that if you want to give the official answer, I'm happy to post a link in the chat, or if we can post a link in the chat, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, generally the project instructions will instruct on those types of things. Sometimes they say to pull all the information from multiple images into one and use it once for that one image. Sometimes you just pull the information from one image and it all together. I did have one batch where the names were on one image and the dates were on the other image. And so I pulled that information together and indexed them both together for one of those images instead of both of those images. But you've got in another letter that's not included on the one that you've got. I've seen a situation like that where the document or somewhere on the record there wasn't a date.
It might be image 2. It might be a series of 5 images, and the first 3 it had the date, but there's a date field on the 4th image, but it's not actually on that image. Can put that date field over instead of leaving it blank, so that image doesn't. Images they're all tied together. That's kind of what we're looking at, and maybe that's a better question for support, or again, you made the point, look at the project instructions and see what they say to do in handling some of those instances.
Yeah, I would say if there's a date in that record, say it's a record that spans a few images, if there's a date earlier, it is okay to put that date, the names, even if they're later in the document. Yeah, I'll say yes, let's do that. But yeah, project instructions should help answer those types of questions too. Now, locations, if there's not a field to capture the location, then won't enter the location at all. Sometimes some projects there are location fields and some there are not. But know that these records on the back end, they've been able to pull the location information because all of the records in a certain series may be about Louisiana. They've already tagged Louisiana to those records on the back end. So if there's a field captured, don't worry about it.
That's well. We're 5 minutes early. I apologize that we do need to keep everybody on mute. We do have a significant number of folks who called in who may not be able to chat. And so again, if you have questions and you were on today's call and they weren't addressed at all, if you could let the person who invited you or reply email invitation that you received for this meeting with any questions, hopefully those will get back to our team and we can let you know, we can try and answer those as quickly as we can. So thank you all for joining us today. Like I said, we will be again tomorrow Friday, June 5th at 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. And also want to remind you of the actual broadcast, the announcement to the world about these records and our call for indexing. As you know, many of you know, we have not done our formal push and awareness campaign associated with this. We've been working directly with our partners and with some of our public affairs reps around the country to organize events. But on Friday, June 19th, which is the 150th anniversary of Juneteenth, you can come to discoverfreedmen.org. That's discoverfreedmen.org. I'll put that in the chat, to watch the broadcast. That'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It'll originate from the Los Angeles and the California African American Museum. We'll have speakers, representative from OGS, from Family Church, and from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints there to talk about this project, as well as the additional partners on site who have made these records available and who we're trying to prepare these records for. So please join us for that live broadcast on Friday, June 19th. Organize groups, parties, lunches, whatever you want to do around that to generate interest. We need the volunteers. There was a question about how long we thought this may take. Obviously, we're shooting for completing this project before the Smithsonian adds their final installation on their National Museum of African American History and Culture in September 2016. We feel like we have enough time to do that, but we only have enough time to do that if we get a good amount of volunteers. So we need your help to socialize this, to invite others to the broadcast on the 19th, to send them to the website after the 19th to get involved. The website, discoverfreedmen.org, is the way that you get involved in this project. And we look forward to your participation, and I'm glad you could join us today. So thank you, everyone. That will adjourn.
All right. Thank